Hello, everybody, and welcome to our 2020 AGM VCC. My name is Hajir Said. I am the Community Facilitation and Engagement Specialist, and I'll be your host for today. So, hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to see you all virtually. We'll go through our uh, uh, we'll just go through the rules of how we're going to go out today. So, one, this meeting is going to be recorded. So, everybody just note that the meeting is going to be recorded and you will be forever cemented in all of this. And two, we have our ASL translator who is with us today. If you are using or you need the ASL translator, hover over her name, it's just ASL translator. 3 buttons will show up on the side. Click on pin, and then she will be pinned to the screen the entire for the rest of the meeting. The third thing is that please be respectful. Everybody, we're all going to be here. I know we're all a rowdy punch. I'll be working on this really well. So it's been a pleasure seeing you all, and we'll move on. So I would like to recognize Elder Clement Leather, who is here with us today. He'll be talking shortly. And before he does that, I would like to also talk about, I'm sorry, 1 second. There we go. I would like to also talk about our board chair, Patty Dolan, and our board members, all of them. Would like to also thank our partners, all 3 of them, the City of Calgary, United Way, and Momentum. Would like to also thank all our champions. I would like to also thank all our advisory committees for Poverty Talks and the Indigenous Advisory Board. Would like to thank all the friends of VCC and all the staff of VCC. So yay to all of us. Thank you all for everything that you do. And now I would give the blessing to Mr. There he is. I'll give it over to Elder Clement to give us our blessing.
Hello? Hello?
Hello. Go right ahead.
Did you say I wanted to say the blessing?
Yes, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very honored to be part of this. And I just got off another meeting. So I'm going to say a blessing today to start a meeting. This is our way of life. Any kind of gathering, we say a prayer. Anything that we do in a group, we say a prayer. And I also say a prayer every morning, as much, and then in the evening. So I do a lot of prayer. And that includes all the people that I can think of, the sick people, the homeless people, and different nationalities, for their well-being and for the weather and for all the birds and all kinds of things that I can think of. So with that, I'm going to say a prayer in my language. Hai onapi, hai okipitaki onakakum kinawakaki, hai no katistuna pakitaki aki no kitskoi kaki, hanikaki no kitpimokoi kaki achimuiskanaki, hai ganok taspum itakaki, hai no kspum mokinana kanakanogan sitapiwakaki, ako coaches tapi to kinana no kanistata piwa spinanaki, hanikaki suka piwakaki, Hanikaki, Sukapi, Kaki, Aktakrim, Stavanakaki, Matapiwaka, Aktoxiput, Smeonikaki, Sepumikrim Stanikaki, Satakrim Stan. Oh, Kenikaki, Nokito, Tokamanistumuas. Hanako tapi sinakanakum tinaki pitakio, Hanakunna sinanakakio, Hanakisiman po kawaka sitapioka, Annakaki ohko mistumiksanaki taupita skenakio. O kenakeswa pumapio noksapata pio sinikaki, Annakai katuma kenakasimsen. Annakaiki matway makaki, Kanoman sitapio nakopuna kiwakaki, Hai spumusa no kitskoika pinakoika, Suka pionikaki utetis tatupuaka, Hai spumstataki kipitaki, Anoko koyanakaki utapi sinak, Kawaka sitaki okua waistak, Ako titsuka pisa kyak saupa tumyak, Oh, can kino kanista po kamanista kino kitsi ki. Oh, kitsi to kamunisto paki kamutanista watsman. Ah, sa kapitsin na pius. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. And now I would like his wardship, Mayor Nenshi. He just joined us. He has a few words to share with us as well.
Well, thank you so much for having me with you here today. Thank you, Elder Leather, for that wonderful starting us off in a good way. I was a couple of minutes late today because we are in the middle of our conversation about racism and the city's anti-racist future. And I was listening to a particularly compelling witness talking about his experiences with the Calgary Police Service. And I wanted to mention that because I'm spending a lot of time these days thinking about intersections. And you know, that word intersectionality is so overused, but how all of these things play together, poverty, privilege, wealth, race, class, geography. And I feel like we're at a moment in history where we can have a different conversation than those of us in this room have been having for so very, very long that maybe we're exhausted with because we've been having this conversation for such a long time. The analogy I've been using is I feel a bit like if you're hiking in the mountains in the springtime and you've had a slow melt since the end of the winter, and suddenly you hear a crack, and the ice is cracking and the water is beginning to flow. I think that's the moment we're at right now. It's always dangerous to talk about history while you're living it. But I feel like that's the moment we're at in terms of thinking about a new and more just community, a community where everyone has a life of potential and a life of dignity. And the work that we do here at Vibrant Communities Calgary is critical to that. You all know, and many of you have heard me say many times, that the anti-poverty work we're doing in Calgary is also very important to me personally. It was the first major project that I undertook when I became mayor almost 10 years ago, if you can believe it. And Kathy and Steve were kind enough to co-chair that work and start us in this conversation about the country's most important, biggest, most potentially effective anti-poverty plan, Enough for All. And of course, in 2019, since this is the annual general meeting, we get to look back a little bit. 2019 saw the refresh of Enough for All. And what has never been clearer to me in this public health pandemic that we live in is the criticality of us approaching the fight against poverty in an incredibly important and thoughtful way. We've learned a lot of things during this pandemic. We've learned about how precarious many people's lives are, even in this great place. We have learned about how the jobs that we thought were great jobs that we wanted our kids to get were maybe not the jobs that really mattered. That jobs like my best friend, the securities lawyer, well, nobody needs a securities lawyer right now. I used to be a management consultant. I like to think management consultants are still useful. But nobody really needs a management consultant right now. What people need is a truck driver, need a warehouse worker, need someone who works in the grocery store. They need people to provide these essential services. And those are often people who are working, but still living lives in poverty. And if there's one thing that we've really learned through all of this is we have allowed the creation of an economy here, which is an economy that relies on, perhaps if I can be really blunt, we're all among friends here who care about poverty, which relies on indentured servitude. We have an entire class of people, and I use the word class very advisedly here, who go to work very early in the morning, Almost all of them are first generation immigrants, refugees. Almost all of them are women. They go to work very early in the morning to long-term care homes to wake up our grandparents, to change their diapers, to get them ready for breakfast. And in that job, that minimum wage paying job, they're given 30 hours a week so they don't have to get paid benefits. So they find another job, another 30 hours a week. They start very early in the morning and they work the night shift too, just so they can support their families. And then when we have a public health outbreak, we blame them. And we say, you're working in two different places. You're spreading disease. Not realizing that that's the only choice they've got, because that is the society that we built. So with all of the wealth in our community, even in tough times, the understanding about the intersections, the understanding about poverty among people who are working and people who are not working in our community is getting to a place where I'm not sure it's been before. And I hope that that assists us and the people at VCC in the work that we do. You know, Enough for All, the refresh of Enough for All, and the work that Vibrant Communities Calgary does every day is about this. It's about systemic change. And that's what makes me excited, because not every community has a group like this. Not every community has a poverty reduction strategy like this. And we have been blessed with this organization and with this enormous leadership. So when I talk about leadership, let's just say thank you to Megan and congratulations. Her first year as the executive director. We made it real easy for you, Megan. Just a public health pandemic, an economic crisis, or three all at once, and also murder hornets. But thank you for the great work that you've been doing. And I want to say farewell to three extraordinary leaders who I've got to know well over the last 10 years, who I understand are leaving the board now, which are, of course, Kathy Williams, John Clement, and Nigel Kirk. All three of whom have been extraordinary contributors to me personally, to my understanding of the work that we're doing together. And a special thank you to Kathy for her great work in stewarding the strategy and chairing the board, and in the work that she's doing. I can't imagine what you're going to be doing without Kathy, but I do know that Kathy is sticking on as a volunteer advisor because she can't leave. Kathy, I think it was 9.5 years ago where I said, will you take on this just short-term project for me? And you're still there, and thank you for all of that. And I know that our new directors, Cole and Donnie and Evelyn and Sam, are going to be incredible additions to the team. So I don't want to go on and on and on, because you've got important AGM business to do. You've got to appoint the auditor and approve the financial statements and all that fun stuff. And I know that's what people love about AGMs. No, they don't. But I really do want to suggest that in the world we're looking at right now, in the world where we are thinking about creating a place that is not just inclusive and diverse, and a place that strives to not be racist, but actually creating a world that is actively anti-racist, the work that we're doing here is really important. And so my challenge for all, no, you're turning your cameras on. I like that so much better. I never know if I'm talking to anybody. I don't know if my jokes are landing. But I want to challenge all of you to really think hard about how we bring these issues of poverty deep in the hearts and minds of people. Because I am deeply concerned. I am concerned that we are turning into a society that is becoming more insular, that is becoming more small-minded, if I may, that is becoming more mean. And so our challenge for this year, for all that 2020 has thrown at us already, is to remember that we get to live here, that there's nowhere in the world I'd rather be than here, having tough conversations here. But they can't just be conversations. They can't just be listening and learning. That's the popular thing to say these days, because that's not the work. That's the prerequisite to the work. So let's enjoy a beautiful Calgary summer. Plus, I want people to be outdoors, not indoors. It's safer. but use these long days, these long solstice days in this sunshine to reflect on what we're building here together and to think about how we come back to that place where we understand that we are stronger together. What's the first line of Enough for All? I've only quoted it about 1 billion times in the last 10 years. My neighbor's strength is my strength. And let us remember that. Let us remember that we need to remind our neighbors that our strength is collective, that our strength comes from one another, and that if our neighbor's strength is our strength, then the opposite must also be true, that our neighbor's failure is our failure. I know we've got it. I know we're there. I know that's what makes our community work, and that's what makes us strong. And one of the reasons I know that is because of what you all have done, because of the tremendous strides we made together. But I also know that there's a lot that we can still do together.
Thank you, Mayor Nenshi. As always, it's always fun to hear you talk. So it's too bad that we have to go into the more fun stuff. All right, so we will be moving on to our auditors. Something that I forgot to tell everybody, if you have questions to ask and going forward, there's a Q&A button right at the bottom of your panel. Just click there and then write your questions there. And now I would like to pass it over to Patty Dolan, who will be moving on with our AGM business. So the floor is all yours, Patty.
Great, thanks, Hajir. Yes, and I get to do the auditor stuff, so thank you, Mayor Nenshi. It was great words, and I'd rather hear you than what I have to read from the script, but oh well, that's how it falls. And thank you so much also, Elder Clement Leather. Your words are always very powerful, and I think the theme I got from both of you was gratitude, and I'm so thankful to be where I am and living in Calgary, and as a Calgarian, I'm very proud to be here. So now for the fun stuff. My name is Patty Dolan, and I'm the chair of Vibrant Communities Calgary, and I'd like to welcome you to our 2019 annual general meeting. And thank you for joining us. I know your time is very valuable, so I appreciate you spending it with us. As we all know, AGMs are a legal requirement. They also allow us time for reflection on our work as an organization. A lot has happened since we met last year, May of 2019, so today we'd like to honor and recognize the work of many Calgarians and organizations who have courage, determination, and focus are driving our Enough for All poverty reduction strategy. We have a quorum with representatives of the VCC membership present, Jeff Loomis from Momentum and Dylan Harris from First Calgary Financial. And thus it is my pleasure to call our AGM to order. Vibrant Communities Calgary is a not-for-profit corporation under relevant laws of Alberta. As there are only 2 members of the society, only the representatives of the members are able to move, second, and approve the items on the agenda. I will not be looking for any other participation today. Each member has received an AGM package with some documentation. So the first item is the approval of the 2020 AGM agenda. Is there anything that you'd like to add to the agenda?
No, I can move it for approval, Patty.
Perfect, thank you. Jeff, and assuming Dylan will second?
I will second that.
Perfect. Any opposition? Obviously not, if there's only 2 voters. This gets a bit redundant, so I think I'll probably
Makes it efficient, Patty.
I'll make it efficient. So the motion is carried, yay. All right, we'll move on to, so in your package, there are minutes from the May 22nd, 2019 meeting. Are there any additions or deletions to those minutes? All right, could I please have a mover and a seconder?
I can move that.
All right, we're going to go back and forth. So
Yeah,
Dylan's moving, Jeff
I can second it. Yeah.
No opposition, so the motion is carried. Thank you. Does anyone wish to raise any items from the minutes? Okay, hearing none, we'll just move on. I would now like to submit the board chair report. So again, once again, I'd like to thank Elder Clement Leather for a beautiful blessing and acknowledgement of our work on the Treaty 7 land. And also thanks to Mayor Nenshi for your welcoming words. As always, they're quite moving. And I'd also like to recognize the City of Calgary, the United Way of Calgary and area, and Momentum. Without your financial support, we would not be able to do our work. Also, I'd like to thank Poverty Talks members who help us ensure that the voice of lived experience informs all of our work on poverty reduction. Your voices are heard. And the Indigenous Advisory Committee members who bring the Indigenous way of knowing and working into our lives. And our board members for their tireless time that they've contributed to the board. Thank you very much. And to our amazing staff. If we could, I'd do a virtual standing ovation for the staff. They've been absolutely brilliant over the past year, so thank you very much. It's difficult to think back to 2019 as we're dealing with the realities of 2020. We could not have known what we established with the Enough for All strategy refresh last year would help set the stage for our current priorities. The strength of our Enough for All strategy will carry us through challenging times. With deeper focus, our Enough for All principles outline what we mean by diversity, social equity, and participation. The work continues, and there is much to do, but our strategy presents a clear path forward, and I thank you. So could I have a mover and a seconder to approve this report?
Yeah, I can move that.
Dylan's moving, Jeff's seconding. All right, thank you. Now I'd like to ask Megan Reid to submit her report as Executive Director.
Thanks, Patty, and thank you so much to Elder Clement Leather and to Mayor Nenshi for your remarks and your wisdom and your support. It's my first AGM with VCC, and it's really hard to not be together in person with everyone today because being in and with community is such a critical part of what we do. At the same time, it's pretty amazing how we have managed as a community to tap into the incredible resilience that we all have and create spaces to be together and to create change as well. One quote that our team has been reflecting on recently is that of the late and great poet Toni Morrison, who famously said, if there's a book that you want to read but it hasn't been written yet, then you must be the one to write it. And we are writing the story right now, collectively, all of us, where poverty is a work of history. And Mayor Nenshi touched on that earlier. You know, we can write about history as it's happening, but we also have to make sure that we make that history. So 2019 marked a really great chapter in that story. We had the launch of the Enough for All 2.0, which is a bold, refreshed strategy to lead us through our times. We saw policy changes, increased awareness of what creates poverty in our city, wins with affordable transit, and the development of amazing tools and research like the Justice Sector Constellations, Poverty and the Law module, and so much more. We also launched our great Champions for Change program. And I hope that you take the time to read about all this in our report to community that Jacqueline's going to post on the chat box here, because there's really amazing work that happened in our city in 2019. But it is hard, as Patty said, to talk about last year without giving a nod to the year that we are in. And the year that we are in marks a period of compressed history making. We're challenged by natural disasters, pandemics, social inequality, and I am amazed actually at how well Enough for All as a strategy holds up to still reduce poverty and give us that roadmap, even in the face of our changing circumstances. So this period of compressed history making is also our opportunity for this year. And we need to make sure that we are writing collectively the right story, where we leverage our new experience and being able to change systems quickly, where we keep the most vulnerable people in Calgary at the center of the decisions that we make, where we walk alongside Treaty 7 Indigenous communities as equal partners in poverty reduction, and where we acknowledge and face the fact that racism is a root cause of poverty and really meaningfully take steps to reduce racism as a poverty reduction strategy. We will see measurable changes in the systems that hold poverty in place so that we can reflect on this as a chapter of our history and not of our current state. I would like to acknowledge and thank the previous executive director who led this organization and this work for most of 2019, Franco Savoya, our incredible board and the outgoing and incoming members, our amazing MOA partners, the United Way, the City of Calgary, and Momentum, our champions, the Indigenous Advisory Committee and Poverty Talks, and the incredible Vibrant Communities of Calgary team. These people and organization are the spine of this book and the story that we're writing, and the work would not be possible without them. So thank you again, and I look forward to working with everyone who's here right now more closely as we make poverty history in our city.
Great, thank you, Megan. And Jeff has just sent me a little note saying that we don't have to make a motion. I think he's getting tired of going back and forth, so we just have to accept your report. Good deal. All right. So now I'm going to call on John Clement to introduce the financial statements.
Thank you, Patty. My name is John Clement, and I am chair of the Finance and Audit Committee of VCC. We now get to move to this part of the meeting that Mayor Nenshi kept referring to, the audit report and the approval of the auditors. Just a couple of introductory comments. The VCC has an MOU with Momentum. Jeff's here on behalf of Momentum. Momentum's our charitable sponsor and provides all of the administrative supports. In particular, with regard to finance and audit, Glenn Ratzlaff, who's also on the Zoom call today, has been a wonderful and indispensable help in our finance work and our navigating all of that stuff and working with the auditors and so on. In your AGM package, we've included an excerpt of the audited statements. These were reviewed by the Finance and Audit Committee back in April and May and improved at our May 27th board meeting. So they're included in your package for review and information. I'm not going to step through each of the pages other than to say that as usual, the audit was clean. VCC is in good financial shape. It's managing its budget appropriately and correctly, and using the funds appropriately, and everything was clean. It's one of the cleanest audits that I've been part of, and I've been on a number of boards and so on, and they're always clean. And again, I thank Glenn for that help. So I would be pleased to answer any questions that people might have. And failing, if there are no questions, I'll turn it back to you, Patty, for motions on the statement. So we'll wait for some questions if there are some. And if not, Patty, over to you.
Thanks, John. I'm not seeing any questions coming up. All right. So thanks again, John. And could I have a motion to receive the 2019 audited financial statements?
Yeah, I can move that, Patty.
Jeff,
And I can second.
thank you, Dylan. All in favor, opposed, so the motion is carried. And back to John again.
Okay. The second piece of business on having to do with finance and audit is the appointment of the auditor for the 2020 year. So the VCC board is recommending that BDO Canada, a limited partnership, be the appointed VCC auditor for 2020. Patty?
All right. Could I please have a mover and a seconder to engage BDO Canada LLP as VCC's auditor for 2020?
Yeah, I can move that, Patty.
And I can second.
Great. The motion is carried. Thank you very much, John. And I guess this is your last financial report for us. So thanks again.
Thank you very much.
All
And
right.
thanks to Kathy as well on Finance and Audit Committee for being a long-term stalwart member.
And actually, Kathy has offered to remain on the audit committee. She likes it so much. So
Oh,
there
good.
you go.
That's news. Okay.
All right. Now for the nominating committee report. We'd like to recognize Anita Crozier and Barb Barkley, who had to resign from the board during 2019 due to other commitments. Very busy ladies. I'd also like to acknowledge and express gratitude for our retiring board members. So to Kathy Williams, who's been a tremendous mentor to me, and I thank you very much. And as I said, she just doesn't want to go away, so we'll keep her close, that's for sure. And John Talind, your great work on the Finance Committee and always bringing a great perspective to the board. Thank you very much. And Nigel Kirk, last but not least, from Poverty Talks, and he's brought the perspective and the voices of others to the board, and I really appreciate your insight. So thank you for serving with us, and your time and efforts on the board have made a fabulous difference in our community. At its June 29th meeting, the board approved the following new board members: Sam Hayes, Cole Siki, Evelyn Goodstriker, a good friend, and Daniliva Salazar. Could I please have a motion to affirm the election of the named board members to VCC board?
I can move that.
All right, Dylan, and Jeff is seconding. So the motion is carried. I'd also like to thank the nominating committee, and I'd like to welcome our new board members. I'm going to really enjoy getting to know you, and I know I've got some calls lined up with you in the next few days, so thanks again. So that brings us to the end of the formal part of our meeting, and as Mary Nenshi said, it has to be done, so we've done it. So if there's no further business to come before this meeting, I'd like to thank you for your participation. Now I'd like to invite you to watch a short video with members of our Poverty Talks Advisory Committee as they talk about their hopes for the Enough for All strategy in the upcoming year. Thank you very much.
My name is Nigel Kirk. What is my hope for Enough for All in 2020? I think that that will have more people who are in poverty have a larger voice in the changes that are required. We've got the 10 levers of change. Honestly, the thing that I would love to see the most is every single partner organization that is working as part of Enough for All has someone living in poverty on their board or has a team of people living in poverty to advise them on the direction that they need to go. So that's really my biggest hope. That's the one thing that organizations can do now that I think will have the biggest impact on the work that they do.
My name is Grace Tessman. I would really like to see the basic income system go through, and so that people that are on are able to be more comfortable financially, because right now with what you get, it's really not enough. Well, I think that if they can give people $2,000 a month during the COVID, then I don't understand why they couldn't continue that.
I have a lot of hope, but because of the time, I'm going to concentrate in something that to me is the most important. Thinking about clear way the strategy translate into meaningful result. I really hope that the strategy has to continue focus on achieving the basic income support, because I know it's an important component of taking action to tackle poverty. But to me, it's particularly important to go further and paying attention on those components that empower people to claim their human rights and to take control of their destiny.
My hope for Enough for All is to continue that collaborative work. I think the collaborations are really what is going to change everything. The ability to access people who work in the justice sector, people who work frontline at agency, people who work, people who have the voice of lived experience. I'm putting all of those pieces together into one place and having them push for the same effort, and having everybody on the same page is huge. I think it's going to be definitely a game changer when we're talking to government. I think it's going to be a game changer when we're talking to individuals, because they know, yes, I'm talking to somebody from Poverty Talks, or I'm talking to somebody from the justice sector, but I'm not just talking to them. I'm talking to everybody who is in the collaborative together, and we're all working towards the same thing. So, and each unique piece coming to build that mosaic is sort of, you have the tiny little piece yourself, but once you put it into that bigger picture, you create something really beautiful.
All Calgarians have sufficient income and assets to thrive.
All Calgarians live in a strong, supported, and inclusive community.
All Indigenous people are equal participants in Calgary's future.
There is enough for all.
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 Thank you, everyone. That was beautiful. I work with Poverty Talk, so I'm so proud right now. I'm so happy for you guys. That was absolutely amazing. So I'd like to thank, our AGM has come to an end. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. Thank you very much. And before everyone goes, we have a survey for everyone to fill. Your feedback would be greatly appreciated. Also, to keep up with us, join our newsletter, link us up on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And of course, you could email any of us at any time. We're always available. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Have a great evening. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay well. Thank you, everyone.